Poetry Night is a beautiful thing to witness, so thank you all for coming. My name is Courtney Terry. I work at the public library here in McMinnville, and we partner every month on the first Thursday at 6 p.m. with Dan and Nancy, owners of the gallery at 10 Oaks, to hold these And this is for anybody that would like to read in our open mic later. So this microphone allows everyone in the building to hear you. And this microphone tonight is being recorded for MCM 11, and this picks up on the camera. So this is so we can hear you, and this is for the audience at home. So don't wave it around, clip it on.
Yeah.
Now we know.
Right.
So we all hear it. Hi everyone, I'm Courtney from the library. Thank you for coming to our March Poetry Night at Gallery at 10 Oaks. Tonight we have Gary Lark all the way from Grants Pass. He'll be doing a reading followed by an open mic, and it's a full house and I'm super excited. Let's jump into it.
Well, it's nice to be in McMinnville, and thank you for library person. I worked in libraries for 30 years and I consider them to be home. At least I found a home there when I stumbled into one and they hired me. I'm just going to start. Fathers, people. They lived up the rivers on patches of bottomland and side hills growing gardens and eating venison. Young men could start working in the woods at 16, earning a man's wages, hunt the clear cuts, and fish on streams where cougar and bear were the only competitors. The cut pushed further into the hills. Log trucks replaced little logging spurs, little rail spurs, hauling some of the most beautiful wood the world ever produced to the mills. But there were places up the shaded river reaches where the stillness that wasn't still and the silence that wasn't silent crept into the listener and wrung his mind like Monday wash. In that place of no human sound and primeval wonder, it was like standing on God's front porch, seeing a balance and meaning to things that couldn't be spoken. The murmur and crash of a small river getting bigger as it slips and carves through stands of virgin fir, nursed and coached by alder and maple along its banks, folds of land untroubled but by deer hooves and marten claws, all strewn and buckled by tectonic plates and ice age maneuvers, seeds and sea bringing forth the day. The listener would know that he is blessed by something beyond his knowing. Sometimes he had an axe in his hand, sometimes a fishing pole or rifle, but he knew he needed forgiveness with every step. So that's sort of the background of growing up in Southern Oregon. I'm turning 75 this month, and it seems like that I've lived several different lifetimes. So it's like I have a few lifetimes in these pages. I'm not running for office either. This is called Navy Beans and Bacon Rind. Rain wanders across the pasture. Father is home. No overtime tonight. Navy beans and bacon rind and a plate of biscuits. What more could I want? A torrent pounds the roof. The chewy resistance of the rind and smoky flavor. Next week, after payday, maybe ham. The gray light slides away. I lay a biscuit in the bowl and pour in more beans, plenty in the steam if you want some. This is called Beast of Burden. My father was one of the oxen that pulled the Northwest lumber mills from the days of the Jippo and homegrown baron to the era of international conglomerate. In those early rough-cut days, the boss lived up the hill, his kids went to the same school, and money spilled on a rainy slope that ran from the view to the slough. The little outfits got bought up, squeezed out, bankrupted, or burned. Labor was still at the gate when the fiscal office moved to Portland or Seattle, then Atlanta, and the money sailed to a warm climate. Father took early retirement with half pensions and bad lungs. He was one of the lucky ones. We, in some shape or form, lived on the Umpqua River. That was like the home was the Umpqua River, and if we went to town, we went to town, but home was on the river. This is on the main fork west of Roseburg. We didn't tell him we were neighbors. Knight is a name, K-N-I-G-H-T. The Knight is a name of a person. Knight's land ran to the middle of the river. Knight said so, had the deed from 1867, and by God meant to keep anyone from trespassing on the rights his grandfather had claimed. It was good land, too, loam and leaves laid down over thousands of years. We had anchored where the North and South Forks come together, with other boats below a wide riffle. Mid-morning, we discovered we'd left the pecan at home. That's piss can. So, with some trepidation, we threw out the anchor rope float and nudged the boat around a spit of out onto a spit of sand around the bend. Quiet as we could, my brother and I lined up to relieve ourselves. Halfway through, a voice came over the bank. "You don't see me driving to town to piss on your lawn, do you? You haven't noticed me pissing on your porch, have you?" We didn't answer, just finished fast as we could. "I've got a mind to blow those little peckers off." He loomed above us, double-barrel shotgun protruding from his hip. We shoved off, started the motor, headed around the bend. "Next time I will, by God, you can count on it." Then the boom of the shotgun. We both ducked involuntarily. We reattached the anchor rope, fished another hour, and left before next call. We started to swim as soon as we could, so we swam like fish. And my brother was probably 14 and I was probably 10 at that time. Then we moved up onto the North Fork, and are there any fishermen in the room? So the North Fork, North Umpqua River, is famous for its fishing, and fly fishing in particular. But that has nothing to do with this poem. It does, however, have something to do with, I went to high school in Glide, and it was a good place to go to school because in a half an hour you could be on the river as soon as school let out. See? But this has other concerns while I was in high school. Her name is Daphne. Daphne arrived at her grandmother's down the road from us the summer I was 17. I heard that it was to get away from some bad influences somewhere in the source of all bad influences, California. She found me within a month. She talked about Ray Charles and the Beach Boys. The first time I kissed her, I knew that some of those influences had come along with her. There was no push on my part when she pulled me on top of her on the bench seat of my father's pickup. What rang in one ear, thank goodness, was the voice of my health teacher, who taught us precious little else, saying, "Some of you boys are going to be daddies before you graduate. And you older boys, 15 will get you 20. And then sooner or later, you leave what you've come to know as a minor paradise, and you head down the road. This is called Snake Road. There's a hammer on the floor, sliding on sharp curves. A shovel plays hockey with beer cans in the pickup bed, goalposts changing down the Snake Road. What you don't understand goes better with speed, feeling the weight of inertia, the rev and pull of a good engine, almost in control. I'm driving into a foreign land. Gravel flies as I ride the ridges past everything I know. And on the road, you're introduced to some different sights and different things. This is called half a mile. The tips of Michael's fingers are bright pink under the cold water. His hands disappearing and reappearing between his mama's at the rest stop faucet off the interstate, half a mile from Co Road, where they get bologna and bread and milk and cookies on a good day. She keeps them close, where they sit with a cardboard sign, anything helps. She's got this sad look, and the kid, he runs around in bib overalls, arms scratched up from the blackberries back where they sleep. $1, a $5, a quarter, a couple of quarters. He laughs and chases a squirrel. A salesman offers her 20, and they go back past the fence. It doesn't take long. He zips up. "You're a real pro, huh?" she mutters. Michael mimics Mama spitting in the weeds. And then you get all the way to town. Nowhere to hide. Music comes down 7th Street, close and fierce, blowing names off signs, jumping into people's blood. It is like fire. The closer it gets, the more uncomfortable you feel. There is no sweet harmony in these juicy notes, no. There are no jive gimmicks, no marching, waltzing, sashaying, two-stepping, chanting, lindy hopping, no syncopated invitation, no. It is born of clanging metal and gunfire, trash cans banging down alleys, cries of desperation in back rooms, bedrooms, and boardrooms. It's pain singing. I worked, like I said, I worked in libraries for about 30 years. And when I was in Coos County, I did outreach work there for a couple of years. And part of my work was going to the county jail, which housed mostly people from the county, but they also rented out rooms, rented out bunks to the feds as well. So you had a pretty broad mix of folks. Pod 9. First thing you notice is that everything is hard. The blue-gray paint on the poured concrete floors and walls, the formed beds jutting from those walls, with 3-inch foam pads, the metal doors, the stainless steel commode, the voices that say, sit down or stand up or go there, the cleaner smell mixed with sweat, and pans of stuff cooking in the basement. When you close your eyes, it is never dark. The last thing you notice is the banging rhythm of your pulse. We're in the optimistic section now. One more jail poem. Wet shoes. The river swells, mud and debris washed down from scoured hills, second growth fur holding on. Rainwater swirls around the footing of the new jail, a concrete edifice, 3 stories and a basement just off downtown. Deborah Jean waits at the outer door in wet shoes. Then she waits at the inner door, the one someone somewhere operates like magic. Then waits in a little room off the medium security pod to look into the eyes of someone she used to know. A walk to the river. Sooner or later, you have to save your life. No matter the decisions you have to abandon, the people you walk away from, the guilt-driving looks and pointing fingers. It may be raining when you walk to the river and throw the ring into the swiftest current. The rain will not care if it is the ring or you. After I graduated from Glide High School, I went to work at the VA hospital, the Veterans Hospital in Roseburg, and worked there for 3 years before I went up to OSU. VA hospital, 1966. See, I told you I was getting old. The month before I quit, a Vietnam case came in, a small red-haired man boy shattered into tenderness. Added to the strange history in rows of bed frames and white sheets from the Spanish-American War to this rose of pain starting to bloom, he stood waiting beyond confusion. He couldn't tie his shoes. He was incontinent. When he was told to move, he moved. All the walls gone, only nerves dangling in the artificial light. How I wish the president were helping me change the sheets. While I was working there, I got my draft notice. And being ignorant young man, I didn't know what to do. So I ended up joining the National Guard because a friend of mine had joined the National Guard. And so there I was, marching around the streets of Cottage Grove. And thanks to Senator Wayne Morse, the Oregon National Guard weren't sent to Vietnam. So, you know, the luck of the draw, essentially. But I did go to infantry training in Fort Lewis, and this is Fort Lewis, 1967. The enlisted man's bar, a quarter in the jukebox, and the chorus rises, "We all live in a yellow submarine, absurd beyond absurd in the beery air." National Guard, Reserve, drafted and enlisted, voice the crazy trap we find ourselves in. The wheel spins, the needle clicks. Whose number will be called this time? And we lived beneath the waves. What century are we in? Have we invaded Persia? Will we massacre Cheyenne today? Every one of us has all we need. There's a brief, still moment, and then someone drops in another quarter. We all live in a yellow submarine, and we hold on for the dive. I read a novel this year that had a lot of music in it, and it was like you could trace what was going on in the world by the music he mentioned. It was kind of interesting.
What was it? What was the novel?
Yeah, you would ask, wouldn't you?
Okay. I want to know.
I'll ask you. I'll tell you later.
Maybe. That's all right. Go ahead.
Canned Tuna by the fellow in LeGrand. What's his name? Anyway. Much improved. Hardly anyone dies of typhoid fever anymore. We can send our sons to war without complaint. Lice are quickly dispatched, and no one freezes to death. We have piles of antibiotics. The broadsword wounded aren't left in the field to die with others rotting around them. Of course, there are more bombs and bullets, but morphine is readily available. We can usually save a soldier whose limb is blown off. Yes, things are much improved. We can send our daughters up to the front. They have the right. Soldiering is still a good option for the poor. We're working on pills for madness, more medications to calm the nerves, and we'll get a handle on this suicide business. Yes, we will. And sometimes you just have to write a poem like this. My brother was a mouse. My brother was a mouse in a garden of mice. His pistol was polished and clean. The number he chanted had 3 digits and rang among the catalpa leaves. When they came for him, he put on the uniform and marched away. As fleas on a beagle were their numbers. It was a long time before he came home, impaled on a curtain rod. While I was working at the North Bend Library on the coast in the 70s, I knew this couple. This is called Hard Diplomacy. He was my father's age, still tall and sinuous with glinting eyes and haunted dreams. Bataan, the Bataan Death March, he was in that. Bataan lived in his blood like a virus. The retreat, half rations, the capitulation, miles of thirst, dysentery, the everyday random death. He had carried a friend the last 20 miles, only to see him beheaded. He slept with a Ruger 44 under his pillow. It had a special sling in his truck. His wife had talked him through thousands of nightmares. In 1976, with cancer in his gut, the best surgeon in our small town, one David Tanaka, was to operate. He surrendered to the anesthetic while the 44 rested in his wife's purse. Through a colostomy and another surgery, there came a hard diplomacy. The son of a Japanese farmer from Fresno treated him with respect, with deference for the driving story that lived in this man. The patient lived another 12 years, now and then stopping for coffee with the enemy. Maybe that's a good place to leave those. We get different kinds of lessons if we don't have a very defined map of our lives and kind of wander around. And one of my jobs was working in Fairview Hospital and Training Center over by Salem. And so this was 1972 or 3. Ward B, 10:15 p.m. We were making rounds, checking bodies. We reposition a few, turn ahead, change diapers. No babies here. Some are teenagers, others older, approaching death. Age fades to meaninglessness among these beds. Some have sat in wheelchairs during the day. Some moved from bed to vinyl chair and back, fed from lapboards, touched when necessary. Our words slip around them, oscillations and fibers of meaning sift over translucent skin and unwashed hair. Our worlds orbit the same genetic sun, but we remain strangers. Only Wally, crazy Wally, will scoop up one of these ruined bodies, legs and arms akimbo, and waltz down the hall, through other wards and back, singing, "You're an angel, baby, my angel baby mine. Come fly with me to the moon, angel baby mine." We finish with diapers, make one last bed check, where Claudia's eyes watch me with all the blue there is. Yeah, I don't do that. I should read this one. Somebody in here knows where Isthmus Slough is. Blessing at the Bayfront Cafe. You can't tell she is a she in the black suit purchased in 1948, coming out of the wind off Highway 101, intently gliding in like a Marx brother cued to the next scene. She turns from the piano bench, nods as we grow silent. She holds her delicate hands over the keys in a drift of garlic, butter, and wine, then plunges into Rachmaninoff. Cufflinks flash from black sleeves, hair divided into two dark clusters dyed and slicked down, hands fluttering like mad sparrows in a Russian dream. Half an hour, a half-eaten meal. Rain outside turns to snow. A samovar glows in the corner. We speak of revolution. No cars or log trucks pass while she plays. Fish barely fin the water in Isthmus Slough. You never know when she'll come. No one does. But we wait and hope it's our moment she blesses. That we smile and applaud her exit, a hint of bay rum cologne left behind. I know somebody that took piano lessons from her. And she always dressed exactly like that. Okay, I'll read just a few more. Okay, you might as well know this. I don't believe. I don't believe much in believing. But if I were to believe something, it would be that we are electromagnetic fields at play on a quantum stage. I would believe that we are light in jackets of flesh stitched together with probability waves. I would believe that awareness is the shimmer of dancing particles, knowing and being one, if I were to believe anything. And the title poem, Ordinary Gravity. Some say they see angels at the event horizon. Others that anything we see is a projection, a hologram somehow created by us to step into and believe. The old scenarios of judgment, heaven, and hellfire taught us about symbols, that we get wisdom aslant. We look for soul in the great karmic tides, in the river that never ceases to run, in the dust left by elephant gods. For those who have touched the cold clay of their mother or killed and slaughtered a calf, there is a darkness no lens can pierce. Some are satisfied knowing that our molecules go on to enrich the thin life of this planet, held in a vast sky that tells us everything in a language we are just beginning to learn. Okay, 2 more. Coming home. The other night in a motel on the road home, the heavy footfalls, then the banging headboard at midnight reminded me that we are quiet love makers, slow pleasure givers, and prefer daylight touching the moon at midday. My wife and I have been together for 24 years. And this was within the first year or two of our getting together. Blackberry jam. All the summers melt together as the green river mixes with a hot blackberry wind. And there is no other season, no other life. Clusters of clusters of fruit hang like gifts. All you have to do is brave the thorns. At home, we strain seeds from the bubbling mass. Not all of them. There will be surprise lumps in the smooth January taste. We smear jam on cheeks and lips and tongues and hold each other with wounded arms. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Gary. And also, Gary have his poetry books for purchase. Another way you can support a poet. His books are here. Okay, we'll go ahead and get started with the open mic portion of the evening.
Have you been in the wine?
Just one. I couldn't talk before the wine anyway, so. And so let's just go ahead and get started. I have Zachery. Oh, okay. Surprise! No, that's cool. I think there's no difference between poetry and music most of the time.
Yeah.
Can I pin this on you?
Absolutely.
Okay. There you are.
All right. So my name is Zachery Sanchez. I'm a songwriter, singer from this area. I just want to show two songs to you guys. Hope you like them. The first one I'm going to do is called No Kiss Goodbye, and it's about not doing what somebody else did to you, because that makes you just like them. A lot of people want to seek vengeance when it comes to somebody wronging them, but to do that is it's just wrong, really. You got to do the thing that they didn't do to you, and that's the difference.
No kiss goodbye, no kiss goodnight. And I was just left to think that it maybe could have been the last time that I ever felt your lips pressed against mine. You dealt a cold piece when you said to leave. Yeah, in the middle of the night when it was raining outside. I was so scared to lose you, but I didn't really know what to do. And I thought that if I turned myself in, you would just leave and be with him, and I would be all alone. But it wouldn't matter to you anymore. And anymore, I don't have you by my side. And anymore, you will no longer be the girl I'm alive. But I got a question, no. But I get lost in my thoughts when I'm thinking of you. When we do what we do, when it's just us two, it's like a dream come true. But could you promise me one thing? If I got down on one knee and to you I gave this ring, oh, would you stay and be my babe? Or would you just turn and walk away? Could you stay and be the one right by my side? Could you stay, ooh, and be the girl of my life? Ooh, ooh, ooh. I won't fall apart, ending up as nothing to you. And I won't hurt, though you're my whole world, if you don't want to continue. But I will still give to you one kiss goodbye, one kiss goodnight, one last memory of us with our hearts intertwined. And I never forget your lips pressed against mine. No, I'd never forget your lips pressed against mine.
Alright, this next song is called Complete Me. You. Alright, here. Let me get kind of more comfortable real quick. Yeah.
It's always sunshine and happy day. Then the storm comes out and the blue sky goes away. I can't have two, I can only have you. And if I have to, I will always be there for you. Yes, I do. But how is it that I can go to sleep at night when I wake up and you're not by my side? And it's driving me crazy. So let me grab a hold of you, my baby. And I've been thinking lately that if it wasn't for you, then no one else would complete me. Then no one else would complete me. You can go where you want to, 'cause ain't nobody gonna stop you. And I can feel our love escalate from the moment it began till the end when we break. Just listen to what I say, a moment of your time, so I can try to figure out how to make you mine. So I reach to you as far as I can. I will always wanna be your man on the ugliest days. I wanna be holding your hand, and it's driving me crazy. So let me grapple hold of you, my baby. And I've been thinking lately that if it wasn't for you, then no one else would complete me.
Oh, wait.
Thank you guys for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We take all poetry from us. Thank you. Okay, moving on. Bonnie.
I'm first.
Well, you're not first. You're second.
Oh.
But, I mean,
Okay.
you're the first Bonnie on the list.
Well, that'll work.
Okay.
Everybody hear me? Every time anybody sees me do a poem and they see this on my wrist, they want to know what I did wrong. How did I do that? And I had a couple people say, well, I told them, I said it was a trip in the garden. And they said, sounds like a poem to me. So I had to write a poem. A trip in the garden. Show me the garden was my morning request. It's so beautiful. I bet it's the best. My hubby smiled right there where he stood. He knew it was the best in the neighborhood. He waved for me to follow as he quickly led. I heard him when, watch your step, he said. It can be dangerous. Watch for the signs. So I walked behind him, stepping among the vines. Sure enough, I thought I was careful to watch, but a big old root reached up and my toe it caught. Over I went, head over heels, as they say. This was turning out to be not a very good day. He swiftly ran back as he heard me swear and cuss. He was surprised when I got up without even a fuss. He started to scold me, but then gave me a quick kiss. As he could see, it looked like I had broken my wrist. I thought, a broken wrist just may come in handy. I'll get waited on while sitting around eating candy. Now my wrist is healed, but it aches in the winter cold. So I cover it with one of my hubby's socks of old. My trip in the garden was 2 years ago, just before my hubby died. But with his sock on my wrist, I can feel him right at my side.
Nice. Thank you, Bonnie. Okay. Bruce. Oh. This was off and now it's on.
Let me come in this side.
Yep.
So a couple weeks ago, had the pleasure of accompanying a few of the other poets here. Did a fundraiser for the Arts Alliance at the Yamhill Valley Vineyards. And this was requested by kind of a Golden Pond couple. The guy's pretty excited about a wooden canoe that he had built himself, a workshop in White Salmon. It's called A Canoe Calls. A sweet water rhythm weaving a long thread, the splash of our paddles as we journey straight ahead. We're off on another voyage to visit distant shores. There's nothing better than a canoe to lead us out of doors. You always hope for scattered sunshine, could be a little rain, the wind might be in your favor, and then you certainly wouldn't complain. The birds you hear might seem familiar, perched in a nearby tree, but each note they sing is special, to be shared by you and me. And then one more. This was kind of a reflex poem. Listening to the news yesterday and today, things have been getting kind of depressing and around. And politically speaking, this kind of sums up where my thoughts rambled. In the month named for the god of war, he emerged, strangely glowing. After hours of grabbing, tanning, and makeup, strutting across his favorite sharp green blades of Russian rye grass, flanked by security, tossing characteristically small bones to various familiar unleashed companions, including the fox, and man's not-so-best friends. It smelled like someone ran over a skunk or stepped in some shit. The dogs looked sick, almost rabid, yet somehow they mustered the strength to sniff all the money trees, tails in the air, chasing whatever shit got thrown in their direction. Some stopping to sit and shake, some stopping to listen for a whistleblower, some stopping to lick at their long-gone balls, stopping now and then to roll over and play dead.
Thank you, Grace. Okay. Roshana?
Song at 17. If I were a young lithe doe, lightly would I run. Fields would fly beneath my hoofs. Stars would speed o'er leafy roofs. All the woods would whirl in the wind of my flight, till I came to rest in a mossy corner of the night. That was me at 17, and I think me today at 74. And this one, okay, so every morning I drink my coffee looking out my window at the birds eating in my bird feeder and watching what they're doing. It's called One-Legged Junco. There she is on the railing, wings fluttering, balancing, watching, waiting. The two-leggeds rock the feeder, gorging, challenging. She watching, waiting. Others dart in, beaks snapping, siskin, nuthatch, sparrow, seeing an empty moment. She swoops, grabs, and is gone. The two-leggeds, furious, jealous of the lost seed, gain the feeder. She, tasting sunflower, sits on the railing, watching, waiting.
Number one hazard of poetry tonight.
I know, someone's got to do it, right?
Next time I won't be like, oh, wait, excuse me, sorry. I'll just be like, stop. Mike. No, sorry, Mike Santone. There are multiple mics at poetry night.
Yes,
That's,
there are.
whoa.
My name's Mike Santone. 2 years ago, Liz and I did a TV show in celebration of National Poetry Month. It was called One Poem a Day Won't Kill You. I think Barbara read and stuff. And this year we're doing it again. And we basically, the way that works is each person reads a poem, or two or three, but one poem, and then every day in the month of April, we put it on McMinnville Community Media, and so for 30 days, 30 different people are reading 30 different poems. And this year we're featuring a local poet who's actually been here, Phoebe Newman, and she's written a number of books. So I'm going to read a couple poems from her book. And if anybody would like to read for our One Poem a Day Won't Kill You celebration of National Poetry Month, get a hold of me and we'll schedule. We have about 20 people so far, so we still have 10 more to go. This is from Phoebe Newman's book, This is for You. And the poem is, For one moment in this day. Focus on the fragrance of the earth. Inhale the green, the gold of the grasses, the comforting richness of humus. Then the pungent bark of trees, those limbs are jeweled with finches and skittering squirrels. Rest your feet in this cold water, the slow and murky Willamette, meandering to the Columbia, sudden icy waterfalls plunging dizzy, whirlpools thrilling in the forest air. Listen for the low humming of cows, the giggles of llamas, the newborn goats. Hear the crunch of deer eating your grapes, the raccoons devouring your tomatoes. Understand that they were never yours. Sink barefoot into the welcoming soil, your toes finding shards of flowered teacups and small bottles along the riverbanks, blackened coins in the deep furrows of the plowed fields. The skies here are wide and filled with every shade of blue, and the clouds are huge and still. In this remarkably ordinary place, you have been given it all. Wonder moves towards you, around you. Be so still, the dotted fawn will nudge you and lick your forearm. Never mind all else you have heard about paradise. This is for you. And I was looking for, in this book, she did a number of Elvis poems. She's from the South, from Georgia. And Elvis never died. I mean, he is still seen. But I'm going to, for some reason, her Elvis poems aren't in this book. So I will have to find, well, I'll do Ruby. That's her favorite poem. And it is also the name of the title of one of her books. In fact, I think she puts Ruby in every one of her books. Ruby. I mostly recall Ruby perched like a bug on the hood of that tan Ford, always whining for a Coke. Nothing she ever had was enough for Ruby. She thought she deserved it all. Miracles come like that, a grieving and the homely. Ruby was one of them. Got out, nagged herself into the beauty school, did real good. Dyed her hair orange and went on down to El Paso, complaining all the way, to marry a sweet boy in Texas. She come to the house last May, got herself 2 little rat-faced boys. That husband of hers all smiles. I swear, Darnell, ain't no way of guessing what God's gonna love.
Thanks, Mike. That was kind of a spoiler. Phoebe Newman is our poet for our next poetry night on April 2nd. Oh. I know.
She'll read Ruby.
It's
better than I did.
I mean, I feel your voices are a little different, so that might. Okay. Patrick.
So back when I was blonde, I used to read at a really seedy bar under the Burnside Bridge. And there were a bunch of wannabe beats, and I was one of them. And it took me years to come to terms with what complete and utter assholes we were. And this is a poem in honor of that. A question of craft. How precious to be a poet, to find a mirror at every turn and casually mask the thrill of notice. A curator of passions, of polished grief, called to witness more than act. A man to whom a woman's body or her quickened breath are no more than strands of a story, how she watches me, her face blurred by the distance I inhabit, by what follows when she's gone. When they're all gone, is that the crime of artistry? To lie in a room of one's own where touch and affection are the fodder of craft. To be lost to pretty fictions played upon a pretty stage until the story falls apart and the night goes stale. To rage against the coming of the light. How cruel to be a poet, shameless and proud, bragging of despair and old regrets as if losses were trophies to be cleaned up and re-gifted, calling for notice, for murmurs of praise. Everyone spreads their legs for the bard, applauds my rhythms, my grace, the words I've bent for advantage, my bluster, innocence be damned. I jest at scars that never felt a wound. I offer wasted flowers for profit, proclaim beauty I cannot see, confess only to myself that every word I've written is mere foreplay for another verse. This is The Blacksmith's Daughter. The forge pulsed red and orange, blue where the bellows whistle over the coals. The light licked at her father's face and skidded off his sweat. Acrid smoke bit at his nostrils, and he shied like a horse, he whinnied. He always made her laugh. The child plopped in the dirt of the smithy, sniffed the warm metal in her hand and rocked onto her back. She could no longer feel the heat of the forge and twisted against the cold floor. That was no help. Winter blew through a split in the cladding. A slender spear of rain struck her cheek. There would be more, she thought, a river or a lake. She would need a boat. At the table, her mother sorted scraps of iron. There was a smear of soot on her cheek that needed wiping, a black print on her apron where her father had pressed his hand. The horse stirred, and the girl remembered he would need rain soon. The lantern needed oil. The quenching bucket, had she filled it this morning? She lifted her mother's skirts and rolled beneath them. There was little to see by but a dim purple light that bruised her finger. She closed her eyes. The heat settled around her. A nail squeaked into a horse's hoof. The whoosh of the bellows, the clang of her father's hammer, a shoe hissing into the brine. Her heart thrummed in her throat, fast and bright. She found a hole in her mother's stocking and pressed her lips to the skin there. She breathed in the scent, iron, milk, and apples.
Yep, there we go. Thanks, Patrick. Kelsey.
Hi, my name is Kelsey Horine, and I published a book this week. And I wanted to read a couple poems from the book, and if you're interested in copies, I brought some with me. I jot down these musings of a crazy mind. I've got delusion-filled journals of mania you won't find. For I have shame, they stay hidden away. My mental wellness may often go astray. So I protect that shame in a pretty box, and I attempt to evade my memory locks. It does lock up from time to time. My memories swirl and come out in rhyme. So I share these vibes I live. I may not be perfect, but it's what I can give. I hope you are given the notion that you are not alone. For if you similarly struggle, love is what I condone. Love through your sadness and woe. Think of heartache, should love be your foe. I sift through my memories much like a revolving door. Memories enter my mind, go full circle, and then comes more. Some trouble me with fear. A two-step dance with depression is always near. So I break these patterns by being thankful. I hope we can all be grateful. Let's be grateful for the goodness of this world, and our plans for overcoming evil should be unfurled. My wish for you is eternal cheer, and soulful tunes for you to hear. Music that reminds you of life's joy, encouraging love and togetherness is my ploy. So find the ones you love so. Dance a little to the music, to and fro. You may find that it will warm your heart. Thus your cheer will start. Follow the cheer and keep your loved ones near. If you do, you might find this crazy life can be so kind. And one more. I wear my heart on my sleeve, and when love is returned, I get some reprieve. Reprieve from the woes that find me. I have no choice but to let it be. Let it be still, for lasting love holds less thrill. Thrill may make my fire burn, but slowly it will turn. It will turn into a state of peace, as long as my commitment does not cease. So I'll love with all my might, and hopefully find joy from day to night.
Thank you. Thank you, Kelsey. Mike.
Writing it in the form called a terzinel, so that's the reason why some of these lines will repeat, because of the form. So this is called a small world. There are no clouds that I can see. The sun is warm, but it isn't hot. This world has only two people, her and me. A table, 2 chairs, and 2 coffees are in this spot, plus the 2 of us in conversation. The sun is warm, but it isn't hot. Time does not exist in this equation. The setting is an outdoor background, plus the 2 of us in conversation. Though there are figures all around, she is the only one in my sight. The setting is an outdoor background. It is perfectly visible in the daylight. Everything to me is clear. She is the only one in my sight. I don't want this moment to disappear. There are no clouds that I can see. Everything to me is clear. This world has only 2 people, her and me. And the next one takes that and twists it a little bit, prompted by a writers group that I met with once in Southwest Portland. But I got something out of it. It's called A First Encounter. Meeting you for the first time makes my heart race and dance. Everything about you stirs me up. Your presence, your form, your glance. Your smile is truly magnetic, since mine is automatic at its sight. Your touch is intoxicating. I need to hold you close and tight. Your eyes are inviting pools. I want to dive in and seek deep. Your warmth is soothing and calming. I must bask in it while drifting off to sleep. You would cause an exciting new story to begin. And that is why I'll never see you again.
Thank you, Mike. And then, Dick, are you ready?
I would like to read 2 poems written by Barbara Drake. Barbara Drake, in my eyes, is just it. She's the best. And these poems came from a book called The Road to Lilac Hill, which you can buy. She put out 4 books of poems. The first one is Digging to China. Maybe you've all had this experience. Once I dug to China, it was hard. I had only a bent spoon with a floured handle. The earth, like a broken pot, was made of clay. And all around me, the bunch grass stood tough and spiky, its roots like box string, binding the earth together. The first object I uncovered was a rusty nail from the falling wooden gate of a long-gone emperor. Then a vole's tiny jawbone, like the shard of a broken teacup, came white to the surface. I anticipated jars of oils and spices and toys made in the Far East and lost by Chinese children. If I suddenly broke through to a child digging from the opposite direction, I would give her my hand and pull her up into our yard. All day long I labored in the cause of international relations, till Mother called me to dinner and wouldn't take no for an answer. I thought that was precious. The other poem is called 6 on 6. I've never heard this expression before, but I assume that the ladies in the crowd that grew up back in the 40s and the 30s would understand what a 6 on 6 was. At 13, I was tall and could handle a basketball. We played girls' rules, half court, 6 on 6, they called it. Every game I gave it my all. Dribbling twice, passed, ran, blocked, got the ball back, pushed it hard and high into the basket, yes! After the last game of the season, I walked with Bob and Robert to George's Market for ice cream. You were High Point girl, they said, with obvious admiration. Next year at 14, half a court was not enough. I chose art club and school newspaper. My basketball career was over. And yet, I remember with satisfaction the year I was High Point girl.
Thank you, Dick. Okay, do we have anyone else that would like to read? Dave?
This first poem is, I do a lot of river rafting and for multiple day trips, and this is called The River's Pull. Even when miles away, she draws me to her with memories of simple ease, moving downstream. Her siren song, like a fugue, at times whispers my name, frolicking in quick little riffles along her chosen path. She raises her voice to a thunderous roar, dangerous and thrilling, pouring out her passion, spent into a gentle pool's caress. She has her own pace and cadence, never out of tune, never off beat. She is perfect in her unmetered rhythm. And I, caught in the currents of the everyday, struggle to return to her embrace. So this is a fishing experience. When you go steelhead fishing in the middle of November and go camping outside, you have this experience where you go to bed and the stars are out, you get up and the stars are out, and then watch that sky 180 degrees off from the time I went to bed and got up. We don't experience that much. So this is called a celestial observer frozen in time. Though the cold seeps into my spine from the desert floor, I refuse to move, faithfully watching Orion stalk the night sky and the Great Bear pivot around the North Star. Certain that this night Orion's arrow will leave his bow and fly to the heart of the eternal prey that has eluded him for eons. Infinitely reminded of my insignificance, I remain a celestial observer frozen in time. So I have one more, this is a little farce, but I'm having knee replacement surgery on Monday. And so it all started with my right knee going out when I was 18 playing soccer. And so this is an ode to my right knee. My old friend, my right knee is battled and scarred like me. Borrowed parts, surgeries 3, put together like an old jalopy. 3 times cut and repaired, but still willing to wend its way. Upstream, downstream, shouldering my pack, wandering through wilds all day. My right knee, my old friend, reminds me now and then through stiffness, popping, and achy day rains that I am not a young man. But still we go out and pretend, reliving glory days now and then. Goodbye, right old right knee.
Thanks, Dave. Sorry about your knee. It's all right. Do we have a... Yeah? You want to share? Great.
So I have the distinct pleasure of calling Dave my friend, and he is actually getting both knees replaced on Monday, not just one of them. So 2 for 1. So I did I didn't have a napkin to write on, but I had a lunch bag. So I did the ode to both of Dave's knees, which we had a farewell dinner for his knees last night. I'm sorry. Yeah, it's good. So to Dave's knees, it has been a journey through countless miles, hills, trails, stairs, beaches, backyards, crawl spaces, athletic arenas, marathons, triathlons, and whatever-a-thons. Over 5 continents, 53 years, and more dance floors than is safe for any one man to traverse in a lifetime. Under the weight of backpacks, wheelbarrows, fishing gear, cinder blocks, iron, stone, wood, and various compositions, you have endured, yes, despite tears, tweaks, bruises, sprains, surgeries, and injuries the like. You have borne the weight of Dave, minus feet and shins. You have been bent in proposition to the woman he loves, knelt upon in prayer to the God he trusts, and held fast at times when other knees quaked. Yes, to Dave's knees, many of us owe thanks, for without them, he would not have been able to endure long hours in the kitchen cooking for me. Lucky for you, Dave is not fat, for no knees could endure the weight of such a man indefinitely, and you would have been destroyed long ago. Be not dismayed at your impending replacement, for it is the likely destiny of all of us to one day be replaced by artificial intelligence anyway. There is no need to rage against the dying of the light, for you have raged in the brightness of the day. So rest well, we're all dog food in the end. Although you have never been Dave's best feature, as his wife Cindy can attest, that position is currently occupied by his humongous personality. You will be missed. Thank you for carrying my friend all of these years to Dave's knees.
Thank you. Do anybody else would like to share? Anybody else just want to comment on Dave's knees? Okay. Great. Thank all of you for coming tonight. Yes, many thanks to Gary for reading. Remember, he does have books for sale up here. We will see you. So April is National Poetry Month. We will be back here on the 2nd. Yep, April 2nd is the first Thursday in April. Yes, thank you. With Phoebe Newman as our reader. And then also for Poetry Month, we are doing a special program. It's the third Thursday? You'd think I'd own a calendar. I don't know. We're having our Paintings to Poems event, which is we invite you all into the gallery. We let you loose for up to 45 minutes, in which time you can pick a piece of art that inspires you and write a poem about it. And then we force you to read them. Not really. Everyone reads anyway. There's no forcing. But yes, so it's a wonderful exercise. It's really fun. Kind of different way. Bob's not here, so I can't look at him specifically when he says that. He always asks if he can cheat, which involves coming in before the actual event and finding his inspiration and writing his poem. Oh, okay. Bonnie, you're welcome to also cheat. Yep. So feel free to come by the gallery before then. And either way, thank you so much for coming. Thank you, Gary, and we will see you next month.